Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get strange. And I'm not talking about the
Yes.
doctor. That's okay. Guys, well, we were talking about the binge model, and one of the points I was going to make up is slowly, but hopefully surely, I think Netflix is starting to figure it out. What they did with Stranger Things, I thought was a stroke of brilliance because it's somewhere mixed between the best of both worlds. We got a fat chunk of long episodes that we had a whole month to watch. Obviously, most of us did it in a weekend, but it leaving the remaining finale bits till July. We were talking about Stranger Things all month, or at least I was. People I saw on Twitter. The conversation kept going because we were waiting and we were speculating and we were talking about it. It was on TikTok, it was on Twitter, Facebook, shirt sales, and it was great. And it stretched out. Instead of people talking about Stranger Things for 1 week, they talked about it all month. And I think that's something Netflix needs to experiment with more. Like I bring up this example a lot. Arcane was dropping 3 episodes at a time. I think if your episodes are less, I think if your episode is less than like 40 minutes, I need more than 1 episode a week. Yeah. And Stranger Things had like hour plus episodes the whole season, and the end was like 2 episodes in 4 hours. Is incredible. But my disclaimer, I will say, is going into Stranger Things as a show. When I started it, I was, no pun intended, but a little lukewarm. I thought it was fine. I was like, this is interesting. It's interesting, but like it didn't grab me. And the second season happened. There was stuff that I liked in it, but I was still feeling okay about it. And the third season, for whatever reasons, like the cogs just started like meshing together and things started clicking where like I started appreciating the characters more. I started enjoying the trajectory of where the show was going. And I was just overall more fascinated in the storytelling, what the Duffer Brothers had been presenting. And it made me look more fondly backwards. So retrospectively, all the seasons got better for me. And season 4 continued that. I think it's a great season. I think it's a great wrap up for part of the story, part of the arc. And I think now we have more of a better idea of where the next season is going than we ever have before. I think it's always been a mystery. Every time a season ends, it's a mystery. But I feel like we have a really strong through line now. And we can see that designation. I'm very excited for it. I want to know about your guys' journeys with Stranger Things. Without getting into spoilers yet, what you thought about the season finale, what it was like waiting a month. Luke, you're the guest. I want to start with you.
All right. So for me, Stranger Things, I started watching it back in college. I was watching it with some friends one weekend. We binged the first season because everyone kept talking about it, and we're like, all right, we got to watch this. And
back
so we watched it.
That was like 3 years ago. How old are you?
I'm 28.
Okay. You guys are the same, about the same age. Okay.
But so we binged it. I love the mystery aspect. I think, like Jesse, I actually understand where you're coming from, where the first season was focused more on the mystery. It really wasn't as much character study. Mm-hmm. You had a lot of characters within it. You were starting to like these characters, but it was more about the mystery and the story around it. Season 2, kind of the same way. We're starting to get a lot more character within season 2. I think season 3 was the most character-driven season over even season 1 and 2. So for me, I love season 3 more than 2, because with 3, you really got to know the characters. There was so much more. It wasn't as much about the mystery. It was more about the character. And so then when season 4 comes around, you've already spent so much time with these characters. They've built these characters for so long. You've started to fall in love with these characters. And so because of that, you can bring back the mystery, the dark, the sinister, the creepy. You can bring that back from season 1, and it works better because you know these characters. You don't have to spend as much time on their character moments as you already love these characters. You can bring in some new characters. You can bring in Eddie, who has become people's favorite person. You can also, look at Christy. She was in a episode, and people fell in love with her because she had depth, but also she just, it was there. And so I think the show has been a masterful way to show how character can become more important than your story. because my favorite character, and I think it's for everyone, has become Steve. Season
Mhm.
1, I was okay if he died. I was hoping he'd die. I was so
Right.
tired of
Right.
him. He was so annoying.
Get his hair out of my face.
Yeah. And
Beautiful.
so now I would
Lumptious hair.
cry. Like I was
Right.
crying like in season 2 and 3. Like if he had died in either of those 2 seasons, I would cry.
Oh,
I
when he
mean-
was getting munched on by the Dimmy bats, my wife was screaming.
Mhm.
And I've never seen a
Stressful.
character go from, well, I've seen it once another time. Seeing a character who you hate, like you despise this character, to
Suka.
absolutely loving it. I think the other show I would say has done the same trajectory was One Tree Hill. I think that's
Okay.
a masterclass of character, where the first season, the main villain, quote unquote villain, the brother who you hate, he becomes the main character that everyone loves at the end, who you see his character development, you see his changing. And that's the same thing with Steve. He has become, I mean, you see the memes where he's the best mom in the show.
Yeah.
And so,
well, no,
oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Non-spoiler first. I was going to say at the end, but continue your thought.
Yeah. And so, and I think this split where they did most of the season at the beginning and then made us wait, made us theorize, worked. Every content that you release with Stranger Things during this month has exploded. I mean, absolutely exploded. Everything does well with
Stranger Things broke the internet. That has not, like, that happens on Disney Plus, like on some of the earlier shows, but I can't think of a time that Netflix fell apart during the debut of one of their shows. That's huge.
Well,
that means
not
it's
massive.
spiked from volume 1.
But I don't think another show for now can do that yet.
No.
Because I don't think even if they did this model for season 1, this would have worked. Season 1, 2, maybe 3 if they'd done this model, it could have worked with 3, but I don't think 1 and 2. Because you care about how many theory videos did you see about which of these characters is going to die? Because you cared about the characters. It was more about the character than really even the mystery or the background. It was more about that. What's going to happen to my favorite character? I love this person. Please don't die.
Right.
And the Duffers had you stressed like the majority of the season. After the first couple introductory episodes, when the ish started hitting the fan and Vecna made his presence known, it's scary. I was worried. Yeah. And without going fully into details, what they did to one of our beloved characters, or a couple of them, in the final episode, I was like, you bastards. And they compound it by putting things like back to back, so you're already emotionally compromised, and then they just put the dreadful cherry on top of ripping your heart apart. Is rough. And wearing this shirt's always going to feel a little different. All right, guys. So, do we want to get into? We talked about our overall thoughts. We don't have to do a step by step for the volume 1, but what do we think of the 2-part finale? I
didn't jump into my how I got around to it, at least. Mine is pretty quick. I had heard people talking about it. I was really into watching a lot of previously AMC Movie Talk, which turned into Collider Movie Talk, which had Collider TV Talk, and so I was very much into like the movie punditry world and watching a lot of these shows and this new show, Stranger Things. Everyone's talking about this. All right, I'll check it out, and I was instantly hooked. Like as soon as I put it on screen, it was that perfect 80s nostalgia, Goonies mixed with a little bit of horror aspect, but also like Indiana Jones, but also like just a little bit of it was so Spielbergy, and it reminded you of basically reminded me of my childhood type of thing of watching these types of things on TV. And I was hooked immediately. And I tried to get my wife to watch it, and she will adamantly not watch it because I want her to, which is really weird. I don't know why she has such a stickler for it. She's strange, but my kids are actually catching up, which is fun. And I was worried about some of the horror aspects, especially how gruesome it gets like in this final season. But they see so much other crap, and they'll watch me play like Call of Duty Zombies and stuff. So they're used to seeing such fantastical, over the top gruesome stuff that it doesn't really affect them anymore. Maybe that's more telling to my parenting skills. But so my daughter's like currently in the middle of season 3, and my son's still stuck on like season 1. I don't think he's as interested. He's also a year and a half younger than my daughter. So, but she's 10, and she's totally into it, and she's the perfect age for the kids, especially in the first season. And so that hooked her with the characters, and she's moving on through that. So it was fun. I was telling her yesterday, I was like, you better catch up. Like, I'll be at work this week, catch up, and then we can watch the finale together. And she definitely didn't catch up, so I had to watch it on my own. But I dig it, and I like where they've come, and I like how much this season has tied back to the first season, and we see a bit of that with revealing, especially through like some of the dialogue that Will has, revealing who was behind, who was in charge in the first few seasons. And
I don't have all the actors' names memorized, but especially in the last 2 episodes, the kid playing Will,
Noah Schnapp.
Wow. No, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep. Wow.
Yeah, he did a fantastic job. And so we can transition to the actual spoilers, which is what the tag is down here. And talk about him first. We didn't see resolution for where his character was going, but I think we see exactly where his character is going. He obviously has some
that child alone.
Well, he has a lot of emotions inside that he hasn't yet let out to the audience. I think we all see exactly where it's going, but he's not ready to, he's not ready to speak his own truth. But his brother knows, Jonathan sees it happening, and he's there. And we see a very touching emotional moment between the brothers, between the family, where it's like, hey, no matter what you're going through, like, I'm always here for you. I'm your big brother. I'm going to be here, and we're going to get through it together, type of thing. And I love seeing everything with that. But you also see throughout the season his him feeling so left out and pushed out. He put himself on the outside. The other characters aren't realizing what's going on, but he kept putting himself on the outside, like he was not part of the group or whatever. And I hated seeing that, but he was playing it so well. The way that they were filming it or directing those episodes, he did a great job. I really liked it.
If you think about it, last season, this season is the first time Will has actually been a part of the group.
Right,
Season 1, he was missing. Season 2, he's dealing with the possession. Like season 3, he was starting to be integrated with the group, but he was realizing all my friends have grown up and have this development in them, and I haven't. I'm still wanting to be a kid. And then this season, it's even more that where he didn't get to progress like he needed to, like the other kids. And so now he's in this weird emotional situation where he doesn't know what's going on in his life. He's still struggling with who he loves, who he doesn't. He's still trying to figure out who he is as a person. And I think because of season 1 and 2, being outcasted, being on the outside of his friend group, has made his development as a character, as a person,
kind of stilted. Yeah.
And like that's why you really saw that last season with season 3, where he was really, you could tell he was so much younger feeling than the other kids. He wanted to still do the younger stuff. And what's really funny is by this season, all the friend group actually end up going back to doing those things. He just was still on the outside, being in another state and being away from his close friends. So he never had that, you didn't see him having friends in high school. You didn't see him with anyone.
Eddie could have shepherded him into being a part of the Hellfire Club.
Yeah.
You're playing.
They wouldn't. They never met. Eddie and Will never met.
That's what I'm saying. Like I wish things could have been different.
Well, they did the same thing. Let me ask you this emotionally, and this is spoiler. All right, with Eddie.
Spoilers, Brandy, get out of here.
Spoilers.
Hi, Parker. Spoilers. Don't get spoiled.
This is big spoiler. Big spoiler. This is connecting back to season 2. All right. Which death did you feel more, Eddie's or the boyfriend from Samwise from season 2?
My daughter just asked me too. She's like, "Why did what was his name? Why did he have to die?" And he got eaten by the demi-dogs.
It was really rough. I'm glad we didn't have to watch a lot of what happened to Eddie, and we just got the aftermath. But the Sean Astin stuff was really rough. I'll tell you this: when Sean Astin died, I wasn't as sad. I was furious because it was so brutally sad, but like I was just mad that it happened. And like I couldn't get past my anger. I had some kind of dark, tragic acceptance with Eddie. Like going into the season, I knew. The more I fell in love with the character, I was like, this is it. Every line of dialogue he had, I'm like, God damn it! I know we're losing Eddie. And then everyone's speculating about what song he was going to be playing on top of the bus, and I saw some TikTokers analyze, and they're looking at like the chords that he was playing, and people are like, "Bro, it's Master of Puppets." And I was like, "What? That'd be sick." And then the track list came out, and someone's like, "Master of Puppets is on the track list," and I was like, "Dude, Metallica!" And it was sick. It was one of the best things ever. I'm wrecked. I'm still recovering. It hurt so bad, and I was comforting Lauren for like an hour, and she couldn't even sleep. She was just like she was sitting on the couch, just like not okay. Before we get into any more, we did get a Streamlabs. Hang on one second.
We did, and Mr. Luke is up. It's in the private chat, buddy. You're up. You got to do your best ASMR voice. Go for it.
All right, O'Connor. Let's see what you got. Dominic
All right.
Toretto.
Dom Toretto.
I should call my wife. She is so much better. She could do ASMR so much better than me.
John Listerina tip $3. We appreciate you, buddy. You always help and support the show. You're the best. We do appreciate you,
John.
And also, if I ever forget the dialogue to Fast and the Furious, you'll always be there for us.
Oh,
Thanks, but man, I don't know if I can say more than Eddie. Eddie wrecked me. So like I said, or hinted at earlier, I was emotionally compromised already. And then you are so used to the worst of things not happening to our main cast. And so when Max is being levitated by Vecna, and like the first, I don't remember if it was the arm or the leg, but it snapped. We let out like a cry gasp. Like it was just like the second the gasp came out, the eyes were wet. We're like, no. And it was so shocking. Like you couldn't breathe watching it. And then it's like something else would snap and the eyes were white. And I was like, oh my, are we actually going to watch this happen to our character? And for the most part, we did. And it's like the moment before the eyes are going to pop, 11 comes through. But then Max is not okay. And that whole moment between her and Lucas, when he's like holding her and she's like, I'm scared, I'm not ready to die. And you get flashbacks to Peter Parker in Infinity War, but just so much more brutal and horrifying to look at. It's not somebody being turned into dust. It's like a crippled, broken body of a child. And seeing the fear and like
Wait, you are experiencing what our parents experience with Empire Strikes Back. That's what we are dealing with right now. The emotion. Think of Han Solo. The last time we saw Solo at the end of Empire Strikes Back, you see a fearful expression of a guy in carbonite. Think how horrifying that idea is in that moment, because you don't know what's going on in that moment. They don't know if he's dead or he's just a statue now. You don't know. And you have the point about Luke no, I am your father, which is kind of the same idea where you're coming from this show where you find out more about Vecna. We're experiencing in a TV show what our parents experienced with Empire Strikes Back.
Sure. Yeah. There was a theory out there that what was his name? Vecna's real name,
Henry.
Well, Henry. That Henry might have been Eleven's father because he was about the right age. Like if he was about 10 or 11 in 1959, by the time 11 this is 86, so she's 15, 16 years old. So he would have been about 20 years old or so, in that range, old enough to be a father.
I don't think he was
they never went that way.
In that,
no, I doubt that. I doubt that. But it could have been something that
implanted,
Papa was doing, behind the scenes, that Matthew Modine's doctor character was doing behind the scenes, experimenting and stuff like that.
Well,
I could definitely see him doing that. They obviously didn't go that route, or they haven't revealed that, but
What y'all think of bringing him back?
I liked it fine. He served his purpose well and kind of gave, gave 11, I think, some closure too, especially towards the end there, where, he was trying to protect her, but also trying to help her grow, but also trying to keep her down. And there was a whole lot going on there.
I have to compliment the Duffers for the dialogue choice when he's looking at 11 as he's dying and says, "Tell me you understand." I was like, no, F that. You suck. And I was like, if 11 says like, "Oh, I understand," to give him closure, he doesn't deserve it. He's a piece of shit. And so when she just stared at him as he died, I was like, yeah, rock on, queen. All right, moving on.
But that also goes back to the moment at the end. What was your emotions when she first sees Hopper?
I was already crying. I was, but when she spun the bottle and then we get that emptiness, and so now it's flashing back to her sitting by Max's side, and we're like, oh no, what's Max? And I was thinking like Vecna was going to take over Max's body or something.
Yeah, me too.
Or take over Will's body, or both, because Will has this connection to him, type of thing, in like the real world type of stuff. So I didn't know where. My mind was racing of all these possibilities about to happen, to leave it on a cliffhanger, because I knew the show was about to end. There was only like 10 minutes left in the show.
It did feel like a 35-minute epilogue, though.
It was very.
It was
Return of the King.
Yeah, I've seen that so many times.
But I mean, we got 7 episodes of an hour and a half each, plus another 2.5-hour finale. So it was they had a lot of stuff to wrap up and give it to show us where the characters were.
I will say, when the season started, and I mentioned this, there's a little short up on the channel now. There's quick thoughts after Stranger Things with no spoilers in it. But I did say that there were elements of the plot that I felt overstayed their welcome. And that would be, there's a couple examples, but one of them being Russia. When the show started, I did not expect us to spend 9 episodes in Russia. I thought that would be like the first 2, maybe 3, and we get Hopper out of there. It was a lot of time in there. And they tried to make it as relevant as possible, but they're like, hey, we have to take out these demigorgons to help the kids. I don't know how much you really did. I don't know if that helped, but I mean, that's the spirit, I guess. And I wish we could have done more with the Mike, Will, Argyle, and Jonathan side of things. So there were certain elements of the season that left me wanting for certain characters. But overall, how everything came together and the way they handled how tense moments were, and again, the dialogue and the acting, everything was just so great that like I couldn't, if I tried, give the season any less than a 9 out of 10.
Yeah. And they did, and they rounded it out with characters like you just mentioned, where they still kept the levity of it with characters like Argyle. What's up, my dude?
He was
What's up, my surfer boy, dude? I'm not here for your delicious pies. We actually need some. Dude, he was the best character, dude. He was hilarious. I loved him.
And I love that like all these serious things are happening, and then Argyle's making a pizza.
Yeah. Hey, you guys still got to eat. We didn't see the character. They were in a car for a long time. They need they need sustenance. But they need. Can we? It's tough to go beat by meat for every moment. But I love the moment that Lucas had with his sister as well. That was.
I need more Erica. I need Erica to be now that she's been a part of it. She needs to be a main part of it moving forward.
And just a baller D&D player too.
Yeah.
But that was great.
Did anyone else cackle when she kicked the guy and said crit hit?
Yes.
I was like, she got a nat 20. Boys.
I didn't notice that. That's funny.
Well, something that is masterful about this show is there is no, like, there are a couple stereotypes, but overall, like the Erica, she should just be the annoying little sister that no one cares about. They throw her in a closet somewhere after the events happen, and she's like, "What happened?" Like, you've seen that in so many other shows. This one, they're like, "No, we're going to introduce this character, and you're going to love her just as much as the rest of the cast."
Yeah.
And they keep throwing characters in. I think the only caricature in the show are the parents.
Justin? Or, oh, yeah.
I think the parents are the most caricature of.
Oh, can we talk about
general.
spoilers? When the freaking earthquake from hell like split Justin in half, I was like,
Yeah.
Yes!
That guy, he got what was coming to him for sure. He was such an asshole.
I kind of wish they had not used. I think that his character, I think that was the cheapest part of the series. I think it was like, oh, let's add another jock like we had with Steve, like we had with Billy. Like Billy wasn't a jock, but it was kind of the same idea.
They needed stuff getting in their way on all sides. Otherwise, the plan would just work pretty. Because they had a great plan, but stuff had to happen in the Upside Down. Stuff had to happen in the real world. And in Hawkins, there's not much to really go against our squad, so they had to come up with like some kind of antagonist there. So I get the intention, but I also agree with you. It was a little cheap at times.
We didn't see what happened with that military guy. I can't remember the general that was chasing them the whole time. It's trying to find 11 the whole time. We also Paul Reiser's doctor character. We don't know if he's alive or dead or not, because they left the military there, so they probably went back inside and grabbed him or killed him before they left, took off.
Owens, right?
Owens, was that his name? Okay, so that's still on the hook, and it's funny seeing Paul Reiser in The Boys and also in Stranger Things at the same time, and two very different characters, but both with some like epic dialogue and like uplifting like speeches in this show. Or if you watched a month ago when he had that scene with 11, and so it was fun seeing like a dichotomy between the two characters he's playing. And one thing I wanted to see more of too was maybe, or rather, what I want to get to before we wrap up is if you can pinpoint like one specific of your most emotional moment. If you know, like what, and for me, it's in the finale, and I think because there's so much culmination, stuff wrapping up in the finale. It wasn't when Eddie died, but it was when Dustin was talking to his uncle. And because you know what's about to happen, and as soon as he said, "I was with him when the earthquake hit," I lost it. Tears started rolling. I knew exactly what was about to happen. The scene they were about to have. Dustin had this beautiful speech about, he was hero. He saved this whole town.
And if anyone got to know him, they would love him. They would have loved him.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
that I was over here like I was hiding. My wife was sitting here on my left, and I'm watching on my phone because the kids were watching TV, and I'm trying to hide my tears.
I think mine is before the plan and the battle. You have Dustin and Eddie having that emotional moment between the two, and you just those two, especially in the finale, they had the best. You saw their development. You saw how much Dustin looked up to Eddie and how much he saw so much potential in Eddie, and it was so beautiful seeing that, because you would think, and also you saw with Eddie his respect for Steve. Like he had built this respect for Steve, and basically like knowing that Steve was going to take care of Dustin in the end of the day. And you followed this. I mean, Eddie was great, but like seeing Eddie just become this big brother to Dustin and really take on that role this season, because Steve was kind of busy doing other things this season and wasn't able to take on that role as much. But Eddie was just being there for Dustin, and Dustin was learning who he was through Eddie, and seeing them like joke around and them tackle each other. And that moment was such a character moment, because that's what you would see, two characters who care for each other. Like they were brothers and they were in arms together, and seeing Eddie sacrifice himself, not just for the group, but he was thinking of Dustin. And to me, that was what hit me.
I think part of it might have been, and I was thinking about this too as it was happening, like why would he do that, is no matter what he does, I don't think he had anything he could come back to. Like he had his uncle, but the perception of him, because like the people, until Vecna's out just like slaying people on public news, nobody's going to believe it. And they're continue to vilify him and label him as a murderer. So I think it was kind of an all or nothing thing. My emotional moment was, or one of the first ones in the finale, was Will talking to Mike and basically telling, and when Mike's feeling like he's not going to be needed anymore, or he's going to lose 11, Will telling Mike almost everything that he feels he needs Mike to know, but using it through the guise of discussing 11. And the more emotional it got and the more transparent you really started seeing what he was actually saying, it wrecked me, because it had been building and it had been bubbling under the surface the entire season, and it felt like a huge outburst, but at the same time, I still think Mike didn't see it.
No.
And it was hard. It was hard to watch.
Yeah.
Is it weird to say, even though they really made this connection between him and 11, I don't really like them together. I honestly,
I think there's going to be some splits next season, and I think Jonathan and Nancy, I think, is going to be for sure. But like, people also might not have time to break up next season.
Yeah,
I think everyone.
There might be they're shit hitting the fan for sure. They're not going to.
Well, they
may
talked
not have
about
time
there
to
being a
think about
time
the
jump.
relationships.
They said that there was going to be a time jump for the next season. So like,
I feel like what's happening right now is a little important, because like vegetation is dying. It's like it's slowly spreading. So I don't know how much of a time jump they could do. Hawkins will be dead by the time we come back to it.
They're wanting to like make it like enough of a time jump where the ages match for the kids, because their age don't. Because I think like 11 in real life she's 18, but in the show I think she's like 14. So it's like 4 years.
Yeah,
I think Millie is older. I mean, I could be wrong, but they've grown up so much.
They've all have, yeah. And Mike looked sprouted like a weed, but he's also grown 4 years. I don't disagree with that. I just wonder what the story would be then. But I trust in the writers, like the Duffer Brothers and themselves. They're fantastic what they're doing. So it just doesn't seem like it would make sense with how they left it off, where it seems like this town is in very peril, like the upside down is spreading through the real world, and it's literally eating stuff alive. So I wonder how much of a jump they could do before, unless this is just a post-apocalyptic world now.
That's what I was going to say. We jump and it's Mad Max in the upside down.
Basically, yeah. That's
what they might do is they might isolate the town. They isolate this area where maybe they put a wall up, or they isolate it. They're basically saying no one is allowed in this area. Quarantine zone. Yeah, quarantine. Yeah. And what excuse they can kind of give it is, this was basically a nuclear explosion happened.
Yeah.
There was a because that was the season 1 where they were working in a power plant,
right?
And so they could make the excuse of, there was an explosion because of the power plant. Everything is dying. It's hazardous. It's radioactive. Yeah. No one come in this area.
They can say like, the spread slowed or something like that. So they'll write themselves, the answers or whatever. Yeah. It'll just be interesting to see.
It just overall, so much worked about the show. I loved the unfolding mystery in regards to Vecna, the great character moments, the humor when the humor needed to hit, the uptick in violence, the fact that I think the show started out as kind of like a dark family show, and it is now veered more and more into horror, where there were several times watching this where, especially with Vecna, I was like, this is a combination of it and Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Along with a whole bunch of other things. And like I think Sean said earlier that it had like Spielberg vibes originally. It's very Amblin. And yeah, we keep that handy. I thought we were going to see Robert Englund at least one more time.
I thought we would.
In the finale. Because I would think there's something unresolved between him and Vecna. It's like your daddy's still around. But
right. Curious what they're going to do with Max, because we see the scene with 11 kind of basically go into her mind. Her mind's empty. So she's in a coma. She's essentially brain dead. I really thought we were going to, 11 brought her back to life, her physical body at least, which I thought was interesting that she didn't tell Lucas that. She didn't tell anyone that, apparently. But I thought maybe I really thought she was going to develop some like Jedi healing powers in that moment, and just like fix her arm, fix her leg.
I thought she was going to unvecna her.
Basically, yeah, that's what I thought was about to happen. They didn't go that route.
I'm happy they didn't. I'm actually happy that they didn't go that route because they want to show everything matters. Like when someone hurts, you can't heal them. Like we want to as an audience, we want to see these characters be healed. We want them to be fixed, but they want to show the audience that no, everything matters. Every death matters. You're not bringing people back from the dead. Every reaction matters. And even if Max comes back, do you think she's basically at the moment you almost need a time jump for her?
Yeah,
because she's a vegetable. I mean, all her arms are broken, her legs are broken, she can't see.
Her mind,
yeah. So she's basically a vegetable right now.
I don't know what a dour note to end Stranger Things on. It was a ride. It was very high quality. I think Stranger Things is some of the best television out of. I mean, things that I'm watching. I think relatively good stuff for the most part. Yeah. Any final thoughts, guys? I mean, we did some of our speculation moving into next season. Some of our favorite things, dramatic moments. We could have probably done a whole 3-hour conversation about the season of Stranger Things, but alas,
break it down.
People have things to do.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, we talked about this, we talked about The Boys, we talked about Miss Marvel, and we spent time on Miss Marvel, but we didn't have this kind of conversation, and that tells you how good of a show this is. Miss Marvel's a good show. I love Miss Marvel. We talked about that, but the fact that we're coming into this show and we could spend an hour, 2 hours just diving into each character moment. We care about every single character. With Miss Marvel, I'm only caring about Miss Marvel and her parents. And Bruno, I think we care about Bruno a bit. But this show is a masterclass in how character works.
Fully agree. And for anyone still watching, or if you're watching this later, let us know in the comments what you think about Stranger Things, The Boys, Miss Marvel, all those things. What are you enjoying the most? What's been the best thing of the summer so far? And that's the end of our spoiler talk of all these shows.